Aloha, everybody. For those of you listening, this is Miho's father, Hawk, and we are co-hosting the show this evening along with our regular co-host, Pags. How you doing tonight, Pags?
Fantastic.
And, of course, Miho. How are you doing, Miho?
What's going on?
Exactly.
Everybody? God, did you butcher the shit out of that?
Where was the hello? It was aloha and hello.
Well, I just said the aloha part of it. That's the important part. Hey, Pags or Miho, do you want to introduce our guest tonight?
Yes, as we mentioned last night, as we continue through this week, we will be having multiple guests, one of which tonight will not be joining us, and I'm going to let his father expand on this a little bit. But Alexander Smith, a little bit under the weather tonight. We had a microphone saved for him, but now we just have a do not disturb sign up next to his microphone. However, his father, Mark Smith, is joining the pod for the first time. Mr. Smith, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you joining us.
Oh, thank you very much for having us here. Of course, we wish Alexander was here. He's sick right now.
He's sick of the way he played golf yesterday.
You know what? We spent the whole afternoon with him out there, and I'm sick of the way he played golf also.
Was that a triple-digit score he put up?
And what is that? We tried to break 100. We talked with Pags yesterday, right on the money there. People were asking about it on the Instagram if you broke it because we teased it. Well, unfortunately, not so much.
We had a good time. We're down here in South Carolina right now, and we had a great time with it, and I'm glad to be here. Hopefully
Absolutely. Appreciate
we'll have some fun.
As always, and once also joining us, Mr. Bob Lesser, down in the corner down there. Doesn't really know what he's bringing to the table tonight, but we're loving having him. What's going on, Bob?
I'm not sure, but that lead-in was a little bit Hawaiian, I think.
Yeah, there
exactly,
it is.
Man.
He doesn't know.
Mahalo.
Aloha
Bob.
and
Mahalo.
hello. But
Hey, we're not going to get to bed too late tonight because we're playing the ocean course tomorrow.
That's
so
right, exactly.
We
At
want to have
Kiowa.
our full faculties.
Oh, and
I'm
we're
just-
going to have...
Hey, Bob, I'm curious. What is that course record at the ocean course? I think it may be in jeopardy tomorrow.
Not.
You mean the high end or the low end of the course record?
The high end. But Mr. Mark Smith played college football actually at Brown University, and that's going to be the subject of our start here on the podcast.
Before you go into that, may I add that Brown is almost Ivy League.
Almost Ivy League. That's right. What are they, Patriot League? Was that Lehigh? What's going on there?
Excuse me, it's barely Ivy League.
It's barely Ivy League. So it's barely Ivy League. We played Brown, but we have college football, and tomorrow, being the unofficial kickoff of the 150th season, we figured we'd start with a little bit of college football chatter and some controversial topics, since we've been discussing the pod, and there's a lot of people who seem to have opinions on certain subjects. And first, we're going to start with players who sit out the bowl game in regards to the NFL draft and their availability there. So,
Great topic.
Right,
Great
we'll let the
topic.
new individuals start first. Mr. Smith, Mr. Lesser, any opinions on the gentlemen who sit out the bowl games because they can't get injured for the NFL draft?
Mr. Smith has this covered.
If by covered meaning I have an opinion, yeah. I got to tell you what, I appreciate you having me here tonight, guys, because I do have an opinion. And but being my experience in playing, in coaching, in having children play also, I think it's very important, and I think it's a great subject matter here that we speak about where and how you get there. And of course, what we're talking about now is young men deciding not to play bowl games so they can participate in the professional combines and the professional, so they can build their way towards a. Of course. So I am very, very adamant about the fact that no one in football especially, and most everybody in here that we're talking to tonight has played football, and it is really a quintessential team game, and nobody gets to the point that they're at without the team that they've played with, whether it's high school, whether it's before high school, whether it's college, or whether it's professional. And I think by not participating in the bowl games that your team is going to is disrespectful to the team and the players that got you there. Nobody does anything by themselves. Again, especially football, because it's a team sport, that these guys should respect the program that got them to where they are and participate in that bowl game. And I get it. There's going to be that. And Pags, I apologize for interrupting you, but I get it. We're dealing with the financial part of the future of these young men.
I would say I completely agree with you. I think for a team, you've worked all 2-a-days. You've done all this stuff with these kids. And the culmination is a bowl game, is a playoff, whatever. You don't see it as much when these kids are playing in the playoffs because they want to win a national championship.
Correct.
They want to have that story. But the bowl games, kind of unnecessary, I would say. But the devil's advocate is these dudes don't owe anything to this college. The college isn't going to pay their salary if they get hurt here and they don't get drafted. The college has no repercussions of that. They just want to win and get the money for them. And I understand it, why these kids do it. To that point, I do agree with you that you should, just for a teammate, being a good teammate, but it's a tough situation there.
Well, I'd like to say something here. That's exactly right, and I agree with both of your opinions. But as a collective, college football, they should actually, do a collective insurance policy on all the seniors that are playing, so we kind of take this off the table. And they're going to be making quite a bit of money, and obviously football is a contact sport, and people get injured. It's just the way it is.
Sure. Okay, well, that transfers into kind of an additional conversation that we'll hit with this, but should college athletes be compensated for Division I college? Should Alabama football players be paid? Should college athletes be paid? Because that's part of the problem is I'm seeing myself in this bowl game going, I don't owe you guys anything. I'm about to be a first-round draft pick. I'm not playing in this game. I'm going to go make my millions. Yeah, the last 3 years were fun, but cool, guys. Peace. I'm out. I'm the only one that's going to make millions, not you guys. I don't owe you guys anything.
Well, that gets into the old argument, is the scholarship payment. And now, of course, today, they're also getting stipends to, put additional money on the side, a few $1,000s, not a lot of money, okay? But, I mean, that gets back to the old argument, is the scholarship being paid? I mean, is that what you're saying, Miho?
Yeah. The scholarship is not payment. Okay, yes. Oh, you get to go to class for free? Okay. Well, what about the millions of dollars I'm making the athletic program? What about the millions of dollars I'm making the athletic director? The only reason the basketball coach has a job is because of me. The only reason the football coach has a job because of me. Oh, by the way, all you Olympic sports who don't have anybody who attend anything whatsoever, the only reason you're able to go to college is because I put asses in the seats on the football games on Saturday. So I don't know anybody here a goddamn thing. I'm sitting out. I'm going to make my money, and I'm going to go professional.
Mark, you going to comment on that?
Yeah, I do. I really think maybe the most important compensation that you can offer anybody is education. And I think the compensation now, let me preface this with saying, I don't think anyone should not be able to afford to eat during the week, that they should be compensated with the ability
meal plans,
to
stuff like
food, meal plans, and that. But I really think that if I am going to a school that is providing me with an education, that compensation at that point is sufficient. And not only do I think that, because what is the percentage of college students that actually go to the pros? And with that being said, that I compensate every person on that team. And of course, we're talking about not just football. We're talking about basketball. We're talking about baseball. We're talking about lacrosse. We're talking about women's field hockey. We're talking about. So they are compensated for. What you're talking about here is a sale and a marketing of a program that we watch on television every week. But I think it isn't just the top players of that team, but everybody on that team that is benefiting from this. And by the way, okay, you are dragging along, if you are the top player on that team, that you are dragging some people along with you, but that's okay. I think educating people for free is a compensation that is fine with what they're providing.
Now, I will say this. I agree to the point where the education is a proper, I don't even know what the word, payment, reimbursement for what they're giving to the school. But I think there's tiers to it. I think when you go to Alabama, you're not going there for an education. If we want to go jump into the basketball realm, these kids are going to the draft after their first year. They're going to class for maybe a semester, and then they're going to the NBA. They're done once basketball season starts. I think there's tiers because you and I, Brown, Wayman, Mary, we're going there for the education. We're going there for what we're doing. Hey, I graduated, baby. I have a degree from Wayman Mary, and that is that you can't take away from that. But these kids that go to Alabama, they're going to further their career in the NFL. That's what they're going to do. And if they're making all this money for this program, there needs to be some form of compensation other than that, because they are. At Wayman Mary, they fucking built all these big-ass things, and everyone's like, you don't belong here. You're a football player. You only got in because of football. Yeah, I got in here because of football, but the reason that new academic building's built is because of football. And I'm not getting any compensation other than the fact that I'm getting a free education. But these places at Alabama, it's a whole nother level there. I can't even fathom what that's like.
Pags, if I can, let me address that and take a little bit of an opposing position on this. How many people from Alabama, how many players from Alabama, of the people, like, what's the percentage of guys that go to the pros, and what's a percentage that actually make millions?
Percentage of football players?
Yeah, let's say with football for right now. And what is a percentage of football players that actually make millions?
4 or 5 year career?
For whatever they do in the NFL.
That's the reason you have to pay them, because not the majority of them go on to make money, and yet Alabama, the university, is making astronomical amounts of money on these national championships. So the backup wide receiver, who's not going on to the National Football League, and yet he is a valuable piece of a national championship team, which has made the university $500 million. I think he should probably get $5,000. $6,000, $7,000 worth of money for winning a national championship and selling all that merchandise and bringing in all those new students because of the football program, because he's not going to the NFL. Those are the guys you need to pay, not the people that are going to the NFL. It's the people that aren't.
Hey, Miho, can I interrupt for a minute?
Oh, of course.
There was a woman in our studio audience that played an Olympic sport at Rutgers University, and I would love, she seems adamant about this subject. She's raising her hand and wanting to make a comment.
Should we get her a mic?
Get her a mic.
Okay, hold on here. Mrs. Miho, should people get paid? The Rutgers football people, did they do enough for the program as a whole to benefit the field hockey team?
No.
Nailed it. Mr. Smith, any comment?
That was an adamant no, by the way.
The sixth offensive lineman who's not going to the league, but is clearly a positive person in a national championship team. He should get compensated for that bond education.
We live in a country. We live in a country that is considered a capitalist country and a democratic country. Do we believe in fairness and who is providing what for who? Is it the running back that's providing Alabama the opportunity to be great, or is it Alabama putting together the people, whether they're third, second string, that help this program be? And I know we're using Alabama here because
why would that matter?
Well, the matter.
Where are you going there with my answer?
Well,
If a running back's running for 12 touchdowns and they're winning a ton of games, then yeah, he is.
But say it's the other. But so say in his instance, it is him. But in the second tight end's instance, it's Alabama. Now, so I'm asking Mark where he's kind of going with all of that, because the answer is going to differ based on the individual.
Well, where I'm going with this is the percentage of people that benefit. And what we're saying is, look, and I hate to keep saying I'm not a fan of Alabama, but of course this is
Well, then
this is what
Clemson.
we're
Then go
talking
Clemson.
about.
Okay, go Clemson
I'm
if
not
you
a big
want.
fan of Clemson. I'm a big friend of Brown. So it's
Okay.
it's
So the running
anyway.
back at Brown,
No, so yeah,
who's
obviously
making money for
that-
the engineering
so-
school.
Right. They don't need that, but nevertheless, you're taking people, young men and young women in situations that are able to get to a point, and I think Pags alluded to this earlier, that he got to William and Mary that is benefiting him immensely after college, that he may not have been able to do if he wasn't the good football player that he was. So the percentage of young men, and let's take the Alabama program, the young men that benefit from that program, those going on to be special NFL players that make millions is a very small percentage, even at the biggest schools of Alabama.
It's 2%, of course.
Okay, so you're looking at young men. So how do you break it down? That should it be just these guys who sell their number in the bookstore to the fans, or should it be the whole team that gets paid?
It's got to be the team.
I find it that
It's got to be the team.
and I don't disagree, but I find that the compensation for anything, and maybe it's just me, and what's important in life and what's not important in life, is to have an education. There may be nothing more important than that, and you're providing this to some young men and women that may not have gotten that elsewhere, but they can get it through their athletic ability.
See, I just think it compounds, though, because I think there's buildings on the academic side that are paid for based on the athletic money. So Joe Smith, who's on an engineering scholarship, has a new telescope in the science program because of the money that Don Glover was able to sell on Saturday.
This is long overdue. Come on. There's enough money out there to trickle down, and they're just not doing it. Why? So the coaches can make tremendous amounts of sick money, more than they have been making? Come on. There is plenty of money. It would be tough, though, to try to figure out the percentage, because different colleges have different demands of their players, obviously, and the different levels that you play at. So it would be tough to figure out how much do they get, what kind of percentage at a William & Mary or an Alabama or a Penn State or an East Stroudsburg, where I had graduated from,
Take
by
it
the
a
way.
step further.
Anyway.
I graduate.
Thanks, take it.
Take it a step further in the fact that what Mr. Smith, you had said about I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity at William & Mary if I hadn't been a football player. I get out of school. What are they asking for? Money. And I'm giving it to the football program because I wouldn't – professors legitimately told me at William & Mary, you do not belong here. I wouldn't wear a football jersey or a football shirt to my first day of class because they would automatically get a thought in their head like, this is a football player, he doesn't belong here. But yet they send me a thing that says, are you going to pay back or give back money for the academics? And it's like, no, I wouldn't have been in here. You've told me I wouldn't belong there unless I played football. So I'm going to give it to the football program who gave me this opportunity, who's giving you all this money, who's bringing the seats in the stands. And granted, I understand William & Mary is completely different tier from, let alone Middle Tennessee State, because that's a Division I program.
Well, and I don't disagree with that, but what we're looking at here is a socioeconomic difference of who gets what out of playing football in college.
Sure.
All right,
And it's not an easy answer, so we're not going to figure it
obviously
out tonight.
We're
It's
not
good-
going to
it's
figure it
great
out.
conversation,
But I think it's important to note where your emphasis is, where your importance is, and we have to continue to emphasize that and if I could too elaborate a little bit more on
Sure.
my similar experiences with PAGS is going to Brown University and playing football. And I can be honest with you, I don't know that I get into Brown University at this point with the way.
I didn't get into Lehigh without hitting a curveball
yeah,
Or throwing one.
or throwing.
yeah.
One of the two.
Hey, you got out of Lehigh not being able to hit a curveball, so it was so. Hey, pay
But
attention
keep going.
here.
We're
I'm just-
going. We're going.
Anyway, no, I think
whatever.
I think it's important to note
Ouch.
that we really want to make opportunities available for people that could not get into schools, that did get into schools, whether it's athletic, whether it's music, whether it's drama, whether it's whatever special talent you have to go into schools. Do we need to pay those people? And I think we offer enough compensation when we offer someone an education, and not to even make this, to give someone a fish or teach them how to fish is really where we're going with this.
The
so when I'm in
amateurism
college,
status is tricky, though, because actors can make money acting, still go to school. Football players can't make money playing football, still go to school.
If you hire an agent, you get kicked out of school. Yeah, you get kicked out of school. You musician, you can go and grind and do whatever. You could play on weekends and stuff and make money from that. As a football player, if you even stiff an agent, NCAA. I think this is all a bigger spectrum than what we're talking about right here. Is this corrupt organization of the NCAA, in it being all this money they're bringing in, and it's just all these players are just these workers. They just work for this NCAA, and if they get hurt, it's like, well, sorry, you're not going to get a freshman's not going to take out an insurance policy like I'm going to get drafted, and then he gets hurt, and he's done for his career.
And I agree with what both of you had just said, all three of you. But most of these most of the sports do not ask these people, like football does, to run into a freaking brick wall. Sure. So there's a whole different ball game when you're looking at the longevity and also, being injured. But it's just
That's true.
I think it's a higher level of putting yourself out there, than doing almost any other sport in the entire college. So it's important that money does trickle down, like I had said before, and there's enough to go around. I don't know how. I should have started a long time ago. I'm sorry I said that before, but I just think it should have, and it's overdue. It's overdue.
It's overdue. So, a lot of conversation, Mark. I know you have more opinions, but just based on time, we're going to continue to move forward here. We're going to stick within college football, and I'm going to stay with Mark and Bob because, Chris, you commented on this last night. But ideal college football playoff structure. What are you thinking, Mr. Smith?
Bob is shaking
Bob
his
is
head.
shaking his head.
Shaking his head and got his hand over his eyes.
He's going, we don't have enough time.
He's
to discuss
obviously
what's going on."
frustrated.
But
yeah,
Mr. Smith, we'd love to hear kind of what you would
Mm-hmm.
see the evolution of the playoff become.
I think what's most important for the marketing part of college football for us as fans at this particular point is to see the best team win the national championship. And when you are playing, unlike other sports, you play one game and then move on. When we're talking basketball, when we're talking football, especially when it comes to professional level, you have series of determining the best football. We need and I think this, I'm not so sure that this isn't just an easy answer is taking the top 8 best teams.
Well, no, what I think would
and
be
providing a playoff to the national championship. Because if you take what is ranked as the top 8 teams, you definitely have probably the best team in that. Not best team in the country. Maybe not necessarily because
So, Mark,
any team
Mark,
can win.
what happens
but-
historically if you have a UCF team ranked number 9 and they're 12-0, 11-0? Are they in?
Well, here, I'll jump into this. What we had brought up yesterday is kind of a format that I thought would probably be now they're not all going to be perfect, but this one I kind of think might be the best solution right now is take the top 5 conference winners. So you play in your conference championship, you win. So say Pitt beats Clemson. I understand that Clemson is the better team. Pitt beats them. Pitt gets into the playoff. 7-5, whatever. They're in. So you get the 5 conference teams. Then it's a Power 5 champions. Then it gets to the committee to decide who the next 3 best teams are. Whether it's a Notre Dame, undefeated Notre Dame probably gets in. A UCF team, undefeated, might get in. And then like last year, Georgia loses a late game to Alabama, puts Alabama to the brink, doesn't get into the playoff because they lost, unfortunately, their last game of the season there. So the 8 you get the 5 conference champions. You can't say that a conference champion isn't in, and then it's up to the committee to pick the next 3 best teams.
So the committee's picking these teams, Pax.
Yeah.
Okay,
who else?
Picking the final
what
3.
Who's gonna
the problem
pick
with
it,
that
you?
is if you have the 5 Power 5 conference champions
Correct.
going in, you got to pick three at-large teams.
Yes.
And let's assume Notre Dame's one of them.
Well,
Okay?
yeah, I guess
You're going to tell me the committee is not going to take a second-place Power 5 team over a UCF. We have not solved the problem here.
I said it's not going to fix every problem, but at least we have
UCF
the
deserves
conference.
a shot in this.
I agree, but don't you think that a conference champion like an Ohio State deserves a shot too?
Oh, absolutely,
winning the
conference
Big
champion
Ten?
deserves it. But then you're going to tell me
But right
that
now,
the
that's
second
not
place
happening.
team in the Big Ten, whoever was Ohio State beat,
Yeah.
are they going to take them into this 18 playoff?
So do you think undefeated, regardless of conference, should qualify?
Yes.
So a UCF team that doesn't beat a single ranked team all year, but beats Temple, beats East Carolina.
It is tough
beats,
to argue against perfection.
I'd like to interject here. I think the NCAA has missed the freaking target all these years because I feel that they should have had 8 bowl games and register these 8 bowl games.
16 teams.
16 teams for the pot. You have 8 bowl games. Maybe the week after Thanksgiving is a deadline, so you don't prolong it too long. Now we're waiting how long to see some of these bowl games? It's ridiculous. You get the top 8 teams out of those 8 games, 16 teams, and you would have your UCFs or some of the other teams that really maybe not might be there because they have a chance. They have a chance, almost like in baseball when they expanded all these teams. The Phillies even have a chance, and hopefully they'll get there. But
Well, that's a whole nother subject.
it is. But I'm just getting
Let
at
Mark
they
go.
missed the target because they should have been doing this a while ago. There's been some good teams out there that got hot at the end of the season that could have knocked off some of the teams that were in the last final game. How about that? 2 teams out
Yeah.
of all these teams. They're different teams between the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Injuries and whatever, it's getting guys back. It's a fallacy that they come up with a committee to pick 2 teams years ago. Now it's 4. But anyway, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
No.
Waiting to comment on this.
No, I absolutely think that strength of schedule and the teams you play dictate your skill level. And I am good with the 5 power conferences along with committee choosing 3. If you play in a conference that isn't as strong as the top 5, I'm okay with whatever they choose, because I think if we get the top 5 conference and the committee's choice of 3, I'm good with it. I think we are getting what we believe is the national champion.
Right.
And I am good with that. I think we need at least 8. And it has to proceed through a process of 8 teams so that we make sure that we have – and again, we go through this every sport, every year. The best team doesn't always win. But that's what kind of makes it exciting. And what we find is one of the most popular sporting events is the NCAA basketball championship, 64-team championship. And sometimes there's teams that don't have as good a year, but when they're in the tournament, play well for some reason. The best team doesn't always win, but I really think the most fair way of doing it, and that's all we can say, is to put our teams to make it fair.
So
and I agree with the top 5 plus 3, and I'm good with the committee choosing that. And let's go through with that. Is what I believe is the best structure of finding the most entertaining. Which, by the way, football, sports is entertainment for us. So let's go through that. Let's have the entertainment. And I believe that's the best way to do it. So I'm good with that.
So, Mark, to your point, what makes March Madness as great as it is? It's the Cinderella teams. It's the teams that beat the higher seeds. So, Pags, getting back to your point earlier, the UCFs of the world. Give me, if you're going to 8 teams, do not give me the Big Ten runner-up. Okay?
Yeah, but what if it's Michigan that has one loss?
Give me an undefeated UCF team. Give me an undefeated Cincinnati team. Just like a couple years ago when UCF went 12-0, they played a bowl game. Who'd they play? Auburn. Who did they bury? Auburn.
Understand that, but they beat Temple, East Carolina, blah, blah, blah.
Doesn't matter. Perfection. Perfection.
Wait, I understand that, but Michigan wins all their games all year, loses a tough game at the very end to Ohio State. You're not telling me that Michigan, who could have easily have beaten Ohio State right there in the last game, doesn't belong in over UCF?
If a UCF team is undefeated, no.
Here's the beauty of it. It's a year-to-year basis. Right. UCF's not going to be undefeated every year. Cincinnati's not going to be undefeated every year. Correct. So as a college football fan, when that does happen that one year, run them out there. Because Michigan's going to have 1 or 2 losses more often than UCF.
Doesn't solve the problem. In your earlier example, Pags, 7-5 Pitt beats a 11-0
There's
Clemson
your
team.
Cinderella.
So Clemson needs to be in that.
Clemson's in and Pitt's your Cinderella
right.
in that instance.
Agreed.
So we're going to move forward here.
I agree with Pitt's Cinderella.
We're going to rotate. Pags is bringing one more thing, then we're going to move.
I think 16 is the perfect number but then you get into that issue of you're putting these kids out there for another game, and that's too many games for these college kids to be playing.
I agree, but Division II and Division III start with how many?
But they don't play the conference championship games.
That's true.
But they have a playoff of some sort. But either way, regardless, we have 1 or 2 topics to cover that are truly fantastic topics. And that next one was the bombshell dropped 48 hours ago. Andrew Luck, Indianapolis Colts, hangs him up. Week before the regular season, a couple years after signing a $100 million deal. What the hell are we thinking here, guys? What do we got? What reactions, thoughts? What the hell's going on, man?
Can I give you my thoughts?
That's why you got a microphone in front of you.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. I'd appreciate it if you gave me your thoughts.
Here is my thought.
Studio
on this.
audience
and of
wants
course,
to hear your thoughts.
Being a football player, an ex-football player who played college football and coached football, I have to tell you, and competed in everything. I've got to tell you one thing. I don't blame Andrew Luck for deciding that maybe this isn't for him, and that maybe the risk one takes playing football, and is he the first pebble falling off the pile of the NFL football that may disintegrate completely because of the danger and the risk of football. I get it. But one of the things that I, as a team player, as someone who thinks that you don't do whatever you do in life by yourself, everybody participates in helping you achieve what you did, especially team sports, that Andrew Luck should have taken a different approach as to when he decided I've had enough. He does it a week before the start of the regular season, where a whole team and organization has been counting on him. And I am not talking about an organization that is financial organization. I'm talking about a team that when players choose their teammates and go out and play for, that it's much too an important situation for him not to do it a week before they went out. Now, with that being said, maybe there's something we don't know, that Andrew Luck is physically scared, physically have the inability to continue on. Then I'm okay with it. But I think he should have not done it. He should have done it 2 months ago or waited to the end of the season if there's nothing else that comes up that we don't know.
I think that's where you found the booing from the fans aspect there of more timing. If Andrew Luck did that 2 months ago before training camp started, or even take it further back before free agency, where the Colts know, okay, we're not going to have our guy that's supposed to lead us to a Super Bowl there, we can adjust. A week before the season, you're stuck with Jacoby Brissett. You're taking Brock Osweiler for a tryout to be your backup quarterback. That's a shitty situation to be in, and I understand if that happened with the Eagles this year, I'd probably be fucking pissed too if Carson Wentz was like,
would
I'm
you
done.
be booing Carson Wentz?
Fuck yes.
Probably.
If that happened that a week before the season starts and we have these high hopes, the Colts have the same high hopes as the Eagles fans do right now.
By the way, there's people out there that think that Carson Wentz could be the next Andrew Luck.
And that's the first thought that popped in my head when that happened.
No way. And I agree with that, but I don't really. I mean, I watch the NFL channel from time to time, and I was surprised that his ankle injury was continuing the way it was. And I had before the bombshell was lowered, I was thinking to myself, what's going on with Andrew Luck? They weren't saying much about it. An ankle injury that's keeping him out of everything. So I don't know. And also the money issue comes into. He had trouble with his shoulder and neck, really his neck, a year and a half ago.
Well, I think what we get into now is these team doctors are working for the organization to get this guy back on the field and not necessarily thinking we have this guy's best health in interest. I mean, you look at the Washington Redskins, Trent Williams isn't even going to play because he's sick of what this organization. I think they need to take a step in the NFL, and this is a whole nother issue, but make these team doctors separate from the team because they work for the team and they have the team's best interest. Get this dude back out on the field rather than this dude needs to be healthy to live for his kids, for his family.
If I can join you on that, Bags, I really agree with you. We have to stop making decisions at the bottom line. Every decision made because of the bottom line is not necessarily the best decision for long term, meaning that let's try and get this guy back. If you remember, let's talk about the Washington Redskins and getting RG3 back on the field.
That's the best example you can make.
What was like, really? Obviously, we ruined this kid's career and probably not his life. I'm sure he's got enough money. if he plays it right, to do fine. But we ruined his career by going, hey, listen, we need you on the field now. And I think it's more important to understand the big picture of it. And there's probably nothing wrong with saying that doctors need to not be paid by the organization to help these guys get back on the field when maybe they shouldn't be back on the field. I think when it comes to Andrew Luck, I hope I'm missing something, that he feels he's in danger health-wise, because then I'm good with it. But if he doesn't feel endangered health-wise, I think he made a decision that I think he should have played at least to where the organization and his teammates could have made a decision that was better for the organization. I wish him the best. I hope his health is what it is, but I'm really tired of our big corporations making decisions that are bottom line driven.
I agree with you. And Mark, look at you, dude. You just keep walking into transitions in the next topics here with your conversation. So have you done this before? Have you given interviews or podcasts before?
That's how I roll, dude.
It's what he does, man. He just walks right into it. So bottom line, transition into the last conversation. 18 NFL game regular season coming, couple of bye weeks, get rid of the preseason. The owners want the games. They make the money. Preseason, not. They make the money. The games aren't going anywhere. We're not going shorter. We can all agree on that. It's not going down. Is it going to go up eventually? How many do you do? Do you do the 18, as well as, I know we talked off the record, but I want to get some conversation on the record around the fact of expanding the roster, and then maybe the players are only allowed to play in 16 of the 18 games. So they play 18 games, but Carson Wentz is only allowed to play in 16 of them. So you get 2 bye weeks plus 2 off weeks, and yet you get 20 game checks because there's 20 weeks now in the NFL season, which limits the preseason to 2 preseason games. 1, your starters get ready to go. 2, you decide who numbers 45 through 53 are.
Miho, let me touch on that. So, as a fan, you're telling me Carson Wentz is going to miss 2 games of the year. Correct? Okay.
Correct.
So, Pags, you and your family are season ticket holders to the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you think of that? That's big money that you're going to be putting out, knowing that the Carson Wentzes of the world are not going to play every game. Well, what do you think of that?
As a fan, it pisses me off, but what's the difference between that and you bought tickets to go to a Phillies game? Bryce Harper's not in the lineup. You go to see a Sixers
because he's
play.
on maternity
Joel
leave.
Embiid's not playing today. It's his off day.
I could see one game.
I understand
but not 3.
football is a week by week thing,
Exactly.
and it's
you have 162 games in baseball.
I understand all that, but if you're looking for, I first off, I'm going to go on the record. I don't agree with you play your best players every game. If you're going to make it 18, Carson Wentz should be there to play all 18.
But the players don't want to play 18 games.
I
That's
agree.
the reason they would play in the 16 and agree
by
to
the
that.
way, Wentz never played all 16 games.
That's correct. That's
Right?
correct.
So
Rookie year, he did.
what we're looking at is, yeah, right. And
Who cares?
what we're looking at there, and I don't disagree with actually either of you, and I think both of them is a pretty interesting. The concept of playing 18 games where players can only play 16 is a pretty interesting concept in that and I think actually we sit here in this particular room as Eagles fans, so we use Carson Wentz as an example and some of the other players as an example. I think it's really kind of interesting to say, what is the strategy and who do you not play Carson Wentz against and what it is. So I really kind of like that as a coaching staff. You got to really like that as developing other quarterbacks around. And again, we're using Carson Wentz as the example. So it makes it a real interesting coaching approach.
No doubt.
And I am telling you, if that game matters, and I know Carson Wentz can't play, as we addressed earlier, I'm still real interested in watching what happens in that game and how to do it. I do not lose interest in the game because Carson Wentz is not playing that game. But I am interested in going, why the hell isn't Peterson playing Carson Wentz today?
Well,
so that makes it even more interesting because, by the way, when we watch football, it's entertainment for us. When I get up on Monday, whether the Eagles won or lost, it doesn't affect my life other than it's fun to watch and it's entertainment for us. So let's keep that in mind too. So if it makes it more interesting, I'm good with it. And so I'm not against that particular concept.
And the thing about the NFL is these 32 teams, I mean, yeah, the 0-16 Browns, that was an anomaly. But 9 times out of 10, these games are all close. There's never blowouts per se. Like the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they had tough games in there with teams that they probably were like, yeah, that's the game I'm not going to play Wentz. But it was a tough game. The NFL is a completely different animal rather than the Phillies playing the Marlins where they know that the Marlins stink even though they can't beat them.
They want parity. The same as a lot of the leagues. They want you in for the duration. But getting back to the 18 games, I'm not sure about 18 if they could play in. But I'm a real proponent of having 18 games because the preseason, as far as I'm concerned, is a joke. A lot of players don't play. They kind of mothball them until the regular season starts. And the players seem to like the two teams that come together and have practice together.
But what you just said is a problem because tell that to the 5th or 6th round draft pick who's trying to make that team. The preseason is not a joke. It's anything but a joke.
That's true.
These are these guys' livelihoods. Yes, to the Carson Wentzes of the world, yes, it's a joke. But there were a lot of guys playing for their livelihood. You know, even Thursday night against the Jets. You know, we're like, okay, no one is going to play that game. No one. But those no ones, those guys are trying to make a roster spot. If not for the team they're playing for right now, maybe another team down the road.
That is absolutely right because I've watched some of the games towards the end of the games, and there's people flying around and hitting really hard and trying to make it.
I think you're talking from a fan perspective,
yes. So
kind of more so of the, they're playing for a job, but I don't give a shit. It's the 50, 51st, 52nd guy. So ultimately, like I mentioned, you have one preseason game kind of for your ones and twos to get hot. You go into halftime. Like Bob and I talked about earlier, you may come out, okay, this is how we make adjustments. This is what we do. And then you have a second game where you have your 50, 51, 52 trying to make the squad. Because, okay, we're 2.5 games in with the Eagles. We had a rain delay. We didn't see kind of the second half of the game. But we already know 51, 52 out of the 53 people through 2 games. We had questions at defensive end. They're all making the team. We had questions at cornerback. We pretty much know who's making the team. Maybe we have a difference between a 4th linebacker or a 6th wide receiver. Yes, I understand to those individuals playing in that instance, it is literally life and death. To everybody else, the owners, the fans, the whatever, they don't care. It doesn't matter. So give them one shot, one opportunity. Let's quote Eminem here, shall we? One opportunity. You get one game. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't get a month to kind of figure it out here. Like, you get one shot.
Expand the roster then. Expand the roster a little bit.
That's part of it. If you go to 18, 20 weeks,
talent.
You get 65 guys,
I agree.
Who get paid, maybe because you have 10 practice squad players. First of all, the fact that it's 53 on game day and the fact that only, 46 suit up, actually. Dress in that moment is kind of ridiculous. And then you get 10 on the practice squad. So that whole thing is outrageous. And just the fact of the owners not willing to give away these preseason games when clearly, again, Mark mentioned it, Philadelphia local-based, Carson Wentz-based, inter-squad practice against the Ravens. It's the evolution. It's the future. You need 2 preseason games and maybe a week or 2 of inter-squad practice. We had a hell of an argument yesterday, if you listen to the podcast, about walkthroughs or full speed practices. And Carson Wentz got, I think, 100 and some reps against the Baltimore Ravens before week 3 or whatever it was. He didn't play in the game, but he got 100 game live session reps. And that should be good enough without actually trying to fill the stadium and play NFL football for 4 meaningless games in the middle of August.
Well put.
And I'll also add to that is, what we're looking at is a sport in football that is much different than any other sport that we follow as fans, and it is so physical and so violent that when I say violent, I don't mean that it's so.
Not for long.
Right. So what you're talking about is a different approach than any other sport because of the physicality of it and because of the violence of it, that we need to protect the human body of the people that play this game. So it is something that we've talked about, and we're going through these CTE. The concussions, the how can Carson Wentz, for instance, and again we refer to the Eagles as we are Eagles fans here, and we look at does Carson Wentz, is he able to make the season and not get injured, and as everybody else worries about their big time players of in their position. So it is a little bit different than what we're talking about, and we also talked about even how we approach practices now and how players are not participating in contact every single day the way it used to be, and it's a very
it's a new world out there, man.
It's not only a new world, but it is a new culture of how to deal with the physical part of what the sport is.
Sure.
And I think we're going to see it continually to evolve. And hopefully, as those of us who were football players and continue to be football fans, that it isn't the Andrew Lucks of the world that fall off the pile, that we can continue to play this sport safely, and we can continue to watch this sport as fans, especially those of us who participated in it. So it's going to be an interesting evolution as we go forward.
I like it. And we're going to wrap this podcast up, excuse me, with something that has absolutely nothing to do with sports. But I want everybody's opinion on the subject as we go around the circle.
Is this politics?
It is not. It is not. We will go there a different night, and whether that will see the light of day, we shall see. But we will get there. But we will start with Mark, go to Lester, go to Mildman, come around. How do you feel about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Love this.
Where you put the peanut butter and the jelly on the same slice of bread?
Oh, that's a tough call because I have never done it. I put the peanut butter on one slice of bread,
I think you've answered your question.
and I've put the jelly on the other side.
You're on that side.
Yeah,
Well,
it was easy. And then you know what? And then you know what I do? And then I put them together, and then I heat up the soup, and I go, okay, let's eat.
I think that you have to do that occasionally because without just the peanut butter and jelly, I've had Nutella on the other piece of bread. So I had peanut butter on one, the Nutella on the other one, and then I had to decide where I was going to put the jelly. So we used the spoon with the jelly and used a spoon and a knife and pushed the jelly. And it's actually a lot better than just the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You got to put the Nutella in there. Take it away, Chris.
Okay, Bob, you bring up an interesting concept here. I can honestly say to you, in all my years of making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, I have never used a spoon. I have never used a spoon for jelly.
I use the spoon only because it's easy to get enough out, so you don't have to keep on digging back in to get more.
So
It's a time saver. It's a time saver.
Miho. Okay, our host is losing it here. Our host is losing it. Miho. Okay, let me just.
This is how we close. Big fan of what's going on around here. This is why I bring this up, as well as the people who don't have Easy Pass. Mr. Smith, you got to have a comment on the people who drive on the turnpike and don't have an Easy Pass.
Oh, my God.
Cash
Stupid.
only?
Stupid.
Are you kidding me?
Right?
Stupid.
Are those the
Are
people
you
that should
seriously
just
getting
be
into
wiped
something?
off the
Hey,
earth?
How about this?
They bumped their head.
You drive up to a toll booth, and everybody gets in the same line.
Oh,
and
my
there's
God.
a green light on the other line
It's
with nobody in it,
unbelievable.
right? Yeah, absolutely.
only.
If you do
This
not
guy-
have an Easy Pass,
Stop driving.
yeah,
It should be part of the car.
I'm
It
not
should
even
be
going
mandatory
Yes.
with the vehicle.
They should
Right.
double or triple the cost
Every
of
time I roll through
the
Plymouth
cash-only
meeting,
lines.
there's people in the cash-only line, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
You
if
don't
you
get
do
it.
it one time a year, worth it.
Yeah.
Just click on the internet. Do
Miho.
you have a computer?
Can we get back to the important
Okay, I'm
subject
sorry.
here?
Back to Bob
Can we
spreading
get back to
jelly
the
with a
important
spoon.
Unbelievable. That is blasphemy. And by the way, this is not even a conversation. It's peanut butter on one bread and jelly on the other, and you bring them together.
Have you done the triple decker?
I have.
You do the peanut butter jelly, peanut
Peanut
butter
butter jelly.
fluff,
Yes.
not the double jelly.
Years
fluff.
ago.
You do the jelly and the fluff.
do the
Years
fluff or not?
ago.
You
Fluff.
do the jelly and the fluff,
Yeah, years
triple
ago,
decker.
Fluff was out
Let me
there.
ask you: are you using a spoon for the fluffernutter?
I see the fluff. Maybe.
Maybe.
Speaking as the fattest guy in the room right here. Speaking as the fattest guy in the room here, you load up the peanut butter on one, you load up the jelly on the other, and you have a fucking sandwich. That's what you
But
do.
Pags, is there a spoon involved?
Fuck no. I don't use a spoon. I use the same one. I clean the knife with the one, dip it into the other, and I'm good. And as far as Easy Pass, those people need to be wiped off because get an Easy Pass. It's the same freaking price. You just do it. Whatever.
It's cheaper.
It should be a lot
It's the
cheaper.
paranoia
so
people. It's the paranoia people.
that they think they're following them. Or
Yeah,
they know
the
what they're
reason is
doing.
because they're going to do the time in Allentown and the time in Plymouth meeting and know I'm speeding and give me a ticket. Holy
Exactly.
moly. Oh, speaking of paranoia, Mr. Smith, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Aliens. Oh, yes.
He's nodding his head sideways.
We got it up, down,
He's
left,
nodding his
right.
head
We got-
upwards.
We got it up, down.
I never
left.
saw Mr.
Wait,
Smith
what do you mean?
absent of
aliens?
words.
Do aliens exist?
No way there's no way aliens exist. We can't even go down there. No.
Oh,
the
okay.
answer is no.
Guys, just so you know, it's Wednesday.
The
We're going to be
answer
here till
is
Monday.
no.
There will be an additional pod,
No, and-
non-sport related.
And,
Quick.
And I'm not even going to go into religion with this, but nevertheless, it's
So aliens exist? No.
Yes,
No.
definitely.
they definitely do not exist.
If the concept
And
of us
they
being here
exist
by
in some
ourselves
people's
is ludicrous.
Absolutely, they exist. Why haven't we not been to the moon like once or twice?
He's a Jesus guy, too.
Because the aliens up there in the moon have told us, don't come back. Okay?
baby.
Don't come back.
I
Let's
like it.
pause
I like
there.
it. I
30
like it.
seconds.
Not buying it.
They don't fucking exist. No way.
Oh, controversy right
When
here.
we
in
come
this-
back on Thursday, it'll be Pags and Smith in one corner, followed by Lesser Mahalik and Mahalik in the other, and whether or not aliens exist. We love you out
Hey,
there.
listen, and while we're signing
Wrap
off
it up,
here,
Mark. Let's sign it off.
If you guys don't mind,
Let's do
let me
it.
know. I love that you guys are the best. I love talking to you guys about all this stuff. I think it's important stuff that we share with one another in trying to move forward in enjoying stuff. let me know. I really want to come back when you guys want to talk religion and politics also, because
baby.
it is going to
that
be.
one will have 3 asterisks in the front and 3 asterisks in the back saying, please don't listen if you want to hear it all. But we will certainly have that conversation.
Have a good night, folks.
You guys are the best. We appreciate it.
Peace.
Later.
Tranquility.